Hello class, we are going to cover objective 2, which is multiplying and dividing real numbers. Some other things that I want to talk to you about, like I said, we're going over objective 2 today. So today you should definitely look into submitting your objective 2 notes and your objective 2 homework. And you have a quiz 1 that is going to be on WebAssign as well, which quiz 1 will be on objectives 1 and 2, which is adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing real numbers. So if you guys have any questions about any of that, ask me. So now let's get into objective 2. So get your calculators, get your pen and paper, your notes and everything. Oh, another thing, make sure y'all read the syllabus as to how to submit your work. Only one person submitted their notes correctly with the correct heading. So I'm going to need y'all to read the syllabus so that y'all can submit the work the proper way, okay? If not, I'm going to start taking points off if y'all not submitting it the way that I have asked you to. So please read the syllabus. All right, back to objective 2. So first things first, we're talking about multiplication. So part 1 is basically multiplying real numbers, and part 2 is dividing real numbers, okay? For everybody, which should be everybody who's taking notes, if you want to kind of separate it however you want to separate it. So first, we kind of wanted to talk about the different ways that you see multiplication, and I did not specifically go into detail about the different ways that we see division, but with the multiplication, I have a pet peeve with this first one, so I kind of wanted to talk about that. So basically, it's several different symbols that you can use to show multiplication, and the things that you are multiplying together, those are the factors, okay? So in this scenario here, the 3 and the 2, those are the factors, okay? So the result of that, when you multiply those things together, however many things it is, that is the product, okay? So I'm sure we're all pretty familiar with these different ways that we can, write multiplication. But this first one here, as we get into the variables and we have, 3x, 2x, and all these different things, I would recommend to stay away from this method, okay? Yes, it's not wrong, but when we start adding variables in, especially when we're using the variable x, this can become a problem. So I love to use the parentheses. It separates everything, and I feel like it's very clear that the 3 is being multiplied by the 2, okay? Even with the dots, some of y'all write with no pressure at all, and the dot just don't look like it exists. So go ahead and use the parentheses. That'll, help us all out, okay? So let's look at number 1, 2, and 3, okay? So if we look at number 1, let's just go ahead and pop that in our calculator. So we have 4 times, and I'm going to type in -7, and we get -28. All right, so I'm going to pop in -6 times, and on the calculator, the multiplication symbol is that kind of big X. So I got -6 times 7, and that equals negative 42. All right. Then here I have negative 8 times 7. And I want to try something here. So I'm going to open parentheses, close parentheses. Oh, nope. Open parentheses, negative sign, 8, then close parentheses. And I'm just going to put a 7. And it looks how it looks on the paper. I want to see what the calculator is going to say. Oh, we got an error. Okay. So just because these calculators give you, the natural display, as they say, we still need to make sure that we're putting things in correctly, that we are putting things in correctly. So I'm going to type in negative 8, the multiplication symbol, then my 7, and I get negative 56. Okay? So that's kind of a rundown of, what the definition of factors and a product is. And we did, some quick examples, throwing them in the calculator, kind of a quick look at that. So now I want you to look at how for 1, 2, and 3, we got negative numbers, okay? So let's explore, why that happened or whatever. So with multiplication, of course, we're working with integers. So we have, the positive and the negative numbers. So when we are multiplying numbers, and for these kind of rules, if you want to call them that, we're going to be looking at two factors. So let's look at 4 times 8. All right, so if we put it in our calculator, we get 4 times 8 equals 32. So let's put negative 4 times negative 8 in our calculator. We get 32 again as well. So this is showing us that when we're multiplying two factors, if both of those numbers have the same sign, meaning that both of them are positive or both of them are negative, the product is going to be positive. All right, so these are some things to jot down, some things to remember, some things to keep near to your heart, okay? So now let's look at what if they got different signs. So let's look at the first one. We got 5 times negative 12. That's negative 60. All right. But what if the 5 is negative and the 12 is positive? So let's explore that. So now the 5 is negative and the 12 is positive, and we still get negative 60. All right. So what this is telling us, if we have two numbers, positive and a negative, or a negative and a positive, that product is going to be negative. Okay, so let's look at it in action. So let's look at example 1 here. We have negative 8 times negative 16. All right, so before I even hit the equal sign, I should already know that our answer is going to be positive because we have a negative times a negative. Okay, so let's hit the equal sign, and we got positive 128. Okay, so now let's look at number 2. We have a negative, positive, negative, and a negative. So by all means, we can put it all in the calculator at one time. But first, I want you guys to understand how it's working. So first, we're going to break it down. So first, I want you guys to do -2 times 5. So we know that 2 times 5 is 10, but -2 times 5 is -10, okay? Because we have that negative and a positive. So now that we have done those two, now let's do these two, okay? We're working our way from left to right. So we know that 10 times 7 is 70, right? So a negative times a negative is a positive. So that means that we're just going to have positive 70, okay? Now we're down to 70 times -4. So hopefully everybody got -280, okay? So let's explore how to put this in the calculator. So remember, we can't just type it in just like this. We have to have that multiplication symbol in between each number. So let's do negative. Let me come into focus. Let's do -2. Multiplication symbol 5. Multiplication symbol -7. Multiplication symbol -4. Okay? Always look at it again, check it, make sure it's matching what's on your paper and that it's in the calculator correctly. You don't want to type something in the calculator incorrect, like miss a number or something, and you just hit enter and write the answer down. So I hit enter and I got -280, okay, which is the same thing we got if we broke each step down, okay? So by all means, if you need to break the steps down, please do. I want you to fully understand this material. So if you are a fast learner and you got it, you good. If you're not and you need the steps, you good as well. As long as you are, doing what it takes to understand the material. So doing all the steps, there's nothing wrong with that. So that's a look at multiplication and the signs of those numbers. So let's look at division with integers. So of course, division is the same thing as a fraction. If you did not know that, a fraction, a ratio, all of that is basically division, okay? So if we look at 12 over 3, what we're basically saying is 12 divided by 3. So 12 divided by 3 is 4. That's something that we already know. And a way to check that or prove that, we know that 4 times 3 equals 12, okay? So let's look at -12 divided by -3, okay? The answer to that is +4. And if we take +4 and multiply it by -3, we get that -12 back, okay? So just like with the multiplication, when we have a positive multiplied by a positive, we get a positive. And when we have a negative multiplied by a negative, we get a positive. Check out division. When we have a positive divided by a positive, we get a positive. And when we have a negative divided by a negative, we get a positive as well, okay? So it's all connected, all right? So now let's look at the opposite signs. Let's look at positive 12 divided by negative 3 and negative 12 divided by positive 3. We get negative 4 for each of these, right? So the same way with multiplication, it don't matter if the plus 1 comes first or the negative 1 comes first, we still get that negative, all right? So same way with division. If we have a plus divided by a negative, our product is this is not called a product. This is called a product. So if we have a positive divided by a negative, we get a negative. If we have a negative divided by a positive, we have a negative. All right. And let's see if y'all remember what this is called. When we multiply things, our end result is a product. When we divide things, let me see if y'all remember what that is called. I'll give y'all a little pop-up. Okay, so these are some things that you guys should remember. Of course, y'all should be taking notes. Make sure that this is jotted down and that you remember these, because later on when we have all of these numbers that we are multiplying and dividing, you may not always want to put all of that in your calculator. So if you can kind of look at it and already know what the sign is going to be, then you can just do your calculation. So we're going to get into that as we continue in our example problems. All right. So let's look at division a little bit more. Let's look at a few more examples, and I'll leave this right here. So let's look at number 1. So we have negative 18 divided by negative 2. So we all know that 18 divided by 2 is 9, right? But if we have a negative divided by a negative, our end result is going to be positive. So that means that our answer is going to be positive 9, okay? Let's look at number 2. We got negative 36 divided by 9. So now that we're doing division, of course, we want to use our division sign here. So we got negative 36 divided by 9. And our answer is negative 4. All right. So we have a negative divided by a positive. So our answer is a negative. All right. Let's look at number 3. We have a negative divided by a negative. So we know our answer is going to be a positive, right? So in our calculator, one thing that I love about the Casio, because it has that natural display, you can put your fractions in to look exactly like that. So I hit this button here, and as soon as you hit the button, it's going to let you type in the numerator, which is at the top of the fraction. So I typed in negative 63, okay? Then you hit the down button and you're in the denominator, which is the bottom of the fraction. So I hit negative 7. I hit equals, boom, it gives me 9. If you don't feel like doing all that and you already know that a negative divided by a negative is a positive, you can go right in and say, okay, 63 divided by 9. Oh, wait. Never mind. We could do 63 divided by 7 and get 9, okay? And boom, we got the answer like that. So that's what I mean by, understanding these principles kind of helps you in the long run. So here, let's look at number 4. Number 4 looks quite interesting. So we have this negative here on the outside of the fraction, and we have that negative with the 56. So we have negative 56 divided by 7. So I want to show you guys another way to kind of look at this. You can also look at this like negative 56 divided by 7. Okay? So whatever we get when we do that division, it's going to be negative because of that negative, if that makes sense. So let's go ahead and do that. We got negative 56 division sign, and then we put our 7 in, and we get negative 8. So I'm going to put my negative 8 in there, okay? Now this says negative 8. And the way that this is written is a multiplication, right? So if we take a negative times a negative, it becomes a positive. So the answer to this will be positive 8, all right? So this is a way to kind of rewrite it so you can make sure that you see everything and that you are fully understanding what they're asking you to do. If you can look at it at this step and say, okay, I'm going to take that negative and multiply it by that negative, and the answer is going to be 8. So all I need to do is da-da-da-da. If that's you, have a good time, okay? As long as you get positive 8 and you show me some work, we good, okay? So that's how you do division, all right? And how you put it in your calculator. So now let's look at 0 and 1 as it pertains to division and multiplication. So just a, quick side note, A being any number, okay? Any number that we multiply by 1, we know that we'll get that original number back, okay? So anything multiplied by itself, anything multiplied by 1 is itself or the original number, okay? So if we take anything and multiply it by 0, meaning any number multiplied by 0, we're going to get 0, okay? So that's some things to remember, all right? So now as it pertains to division, let's talk about that, okay? So first, this symbol means not equal to, and it's basically an equal sign with a slash through it, which saying it does not equal, okay? So if A does not equal 0, 0 divided by A equals 0. So this means that if we take 0 and divide it by anything, we should get 0, okay? And that is if A does not equal 0. If A equals 0, we would have 0 over 0, which is not 0. 0 divided by 0 is 1. So that would not be true. That's why we have that condition that 0 divided by anything equals 0 if A does not equal 0. So another one that we have, if A does not equal 0, then A divided by A equals 1. So that means that anything, if you divide it by itself, you get 1. So 5 divided by 5 is 1. 2 divided by 2 is 1. Like that, okay? And the reason why we have to say that this is true if A is not 0, because of our next rule. If A happened to be 0, then it could possibly be undefined. If we have anything divided by 0, it's undefined. So if y'all don't believe me, we just gonna put it in the calculator. Let's do 9 divided by 0. And we get an error, right? And let's see what the calculator say about 0 divided by 0. See, it gives an error as well on the calculator. So knowing that anything divided by 0, because some people, you know, have that misconception that these two are the same, that 0 divided by anything equals 0, and they think that this is 0. So please remember that you cannot, you know, take something and divide it by 0, okay? So anything divided by 0 is undefined, all right? The next one I need you guys to remember is A divided by 1 equals A. So this means that anything that you divide by 1, the answer is going to be that original, all right? So 5 divided by 1 is 5. 2 divided by 1 is 2, okay? Just like that. So now let's look at a few examples. So for example 1, we have 0 divided by -5, okay? So if we look at our rules here, the rule that we have that looks like that is this first one. It says that if A is not equal to 0, then 0 divided by A equals 0. And A is a variable. A can be any number, right? So if we put in a -5 in here, it will equal 0. All right. Let's look at number 2. We got -4 divided by -4. Okay. So anything that we divide by itself, we should get 1. And if we look here, we got A divided by A equals 1. So A is basically being replaced with -4. So the answer is 1. Let's look at number 3. All right. So we have -7 divided by 1. All right. So using these rules, you should know what it is, but let's just put it in the calculator. So we got -7 divided by 1. We get -7. All right. And according to these rules that we must remember, anything divided by 1 is basically that thing. So if we plug in a -7 in for A, that's A also. So that means that our answer will be -7. Okay? All right. -12 divided by 0. All right? So hopefully everybody referred to this rule here. Anything divided by 0 is undefined. So now let's look at some more examples. And the way you get better in math is by working examples, example after example. A lot of you started filling out the questions that I asked you guys in the discussion. And I asked, how do you study math? And a lot of you said some good things. I wrote down some of the things that you guys said. And with math, repetition is key. Doing it over and over again, different scenarios, different, ways that it's the same, but it just look different. That kind of helps you understand what to do in different situations. So Y'all, if y'all have not done the discussions, make sure y'all do the discussions. It is a part of your grade, so make sure y'all submit your discussion. All right, so let's look. We got 10 problems for multiplying, and we got 11 with division. So let's jump right in, okay? So for some of these, I'm going to use my calculator just, so you guys can get familiar with everything. So for number 1, and you want to make sure that you are putting that multiplication sign in there. So I have -3 times 4 times 4 times -5. All right. And I got 60. So one of the things that I want to show you guys, I want to put this in the calculator so we can see what happens. What if instead of this negative symbol, I put in the subtraction symbol? Let's see what happens. So I still got 60, okay? Do I recommend that? No. Because for some calculators, an error might come up. So try to make sure that you're using the negative that means negative, not, the one that means subtraction, okay? So that's something to think about. So let's look at number 2. We got 8 times, I'm going to do -9 times 10, all right? And I got -720. So let me write that on here. All right. For number 3, we have 4 numbers, okay? So another thing that I want you guys to pay attention to. Number 1, we had a negative and a negative. So a negative times a negative is a positive. And of course, a positive times a positive is a positive. So our answer was a positive. For number 2, we had a positive times a negative, which is a negative, then multiplied by a positive. And so our final answer was a negative. So let's look at number 3. We have a positive, a negative, and a negative. Okay, so I typed it in here, and I'm going to look and check and make sure, because I don't want to, put the wrong thing in there and press that equal sign and think I got the answer and it's wrong, okay? So it looks the same. And I'm going to hit my equals, and I got -720, okay? So you can pay attention to the pattern, all right? When the amount of negative signs is even, like 2, the answer is positive. When the amount of negative signs is odd, like 1 and 3, the ending answer is negative, okay? So if you're someone who likes patterns and different trends, and that kind of helps you learn, then that might be a nice fun tip for you to remember as we continue with these problems. So if we look at number 4, we have 2 negatives, so we know our answer is going to be positive. So because I already know that, I can type in -2 times 3 times -8 times 7, or I can just go in and type 2 times 3 times 8 times 7 and just get well, I had 336. Okay. If I look at number 5, I see -13 and -9. I know a negative times a negative is a positive, so I can just jot in the calculator real fast 13 times 9, because I already knew it was going to be positive. So hopefully that kind of lets you know how remembering certain things kind of comes in handy. So here I put in my -9 times 34, and I got -306. Okay, so for number 7, it is 360. For number 8, it is -30. For number 9, it is -238. And for number 10, we got -180. So now let's quickly look at the division problems. Now the division and the multiplication, basically the same thing. We just, instead of clicking instead of clicking this, we're clicking this, okay? So let's look at number 1. We got -120 divided by -8. We get 15, okay? Once again, if you have a somewhat kind of fancy calculator, you can use the fraction setup like that. Hit that button, type in the -120 and the -8, and boom, you get 15 again, okay? So let's do number 2. We got -135 divided by -9. Oh, and that one is 15 as well. So, yeah. So once again, if we remember the rules or our little shortcuts, whatever you want to call them, we know that a negative number divided by a negative number is going to be positive. So if you wanted to just put in 120 divided by 8, because you know the answer is already going to be positive, you can do that. But on your paper, I want to see, what the actual problem says. So, but if you, see that quickly and understand, that can kind of cut down on, different things that you might have to add into the calculator down the line. One of the things, with standardized tests and all of that, sometimes that time limit can really weigh on you. So as many things as you can calculate in your head, that will help. So I just put number 3 in the calculator and I got -19. Let's do number 4. And I'm going to put it in there the regular way. And I got -18. All right. For number 5, you should have gotten 27. Because the negative times the negative is going to make the answer positive. For number 6, you should have 3. Once again, the negative times the negative is going to be a positive, okay? So it doesn't matter if it's in the top or bottom, numerator or denominator, okay? So let's look at number 7. I put that in my calculator. 98 divided by -14, and you can put the parentheses in there It's really up to you, but you don't want to get too many parentheses in there because sometimes you can accidentally not close one and get an error. So we get -7. For number 8, we have a negative divided by a negative. Hopefully everybody got 9, right? So a negative divided by a negative is a positive. If we look at number 9, we have a -120 divided by a -20. So in my calculator, I just put 120 divided by 20, and I got 6. Okay, let's look at number 10. Number 10 is -4. And number 11, we have this negative here. Then we have this negative and this negative. So a negative divided by a negative is a positive, right? But if we multiply it by this negative, then our answer is going to be negative. All right? So hopefully you all got those right. If you feel like you good and you understand the multiplication, go ahead and put I'm good with division and an emoji in the chat. Give me a nice emoji. Don't give me a mean emoji or a dirty emoji, okay? Give me like a smiley face or something. Don't give me nothing crazy. Make sure that you guys are doing your assignments. With online work, it is very easy to get behind. Make sure you guys are doing your work, reading your assignments, checking your reading your announcements, checking the messages and all that, and staying up to date with everything. And if you have a question, please do not hesitate to let me know. All right, so I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you guys tomorrow in class so that we can go over objective 3.